Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Navid, and in this video we are going to dive into the fundamental of Python programming in just 1 hour. Whether you are a complete beginner, have some prior coding experience, this crash course will equip you with the essential knowledge you need to get started with Python. We'll cover everything from setting up your development environment to understanding variables, data types, control flow, functions, and more. Oh, and before we dive into our exciting 1 hour Python programming crash course, I want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. By subscribing, you will stay updated with all the latest similar content on this channel. Liking this video helps support the channel and lets me know that you are enjoying the content. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump right into learning Python in just 1 hour. Alright, to open up Colab, we Google it, and the first website that pops up, Google Colab, we just click on it, and then this will appear. Just click on New Notebook to create your new notebook. This is the Colab area that will be open up for you. So the first thing that we need to do is changing the name of our notebook here in top. You can change it to any name that you like. Let's put Python Basics. And then you have a couple of tabs here to use them. For example, the file, you can open a new notebook for yourself, or you can open or upload the notebooks that you have written before, rename your notebook, save it in GitHub, and also you can download your written notebook as with two formats, IPY and B. That is a notebook format. You can open it up then after with Jupyter Notebook or Colab itself, or as a Python file, Python formats that you can open it up with other IDEs like Spider and PyCharm, or you can print it as PDF file. You can also go to the tool and go to the keyboard shortcut section in order to change any shortcuts. So shortcuts are important because sometimes you use them in order to make your coding faster. So for example, let's say in the run section, you can use F9 in order to run your selection codes. Or for example, you can use Control F10 in order to run the selected cell and create another cell after that. Or you can easily change these shortcuts for yourself to the shortcuts that you like. Then by clicking save, all your change will be saved. Let's just press cancel for now. Then to start coding, we have a cell here, as you can see. We can start coding here, and we have a run button here. So anytime that you want to start coding and finish coding, and then you want to run the selected code, you can just press run. And you have two options in order to add code or text. So easily you can click here or here in order to add a new cell for yourself or new cell for your text, for code or text. So text is not considered as a code. Colab does not consider it in your code. It could be used as putting a title, for example, for your code for each section. And you can easily remove these cells or at the text cell or code cell by clicking on delete here and here. So this was all about the environment that you need for now for the basic. Now it's time to start our first function. Let's do that. The first function that we want to start with is the print function. So let's say print, and then we have a set of parentheses here. You can see that the color of print changed. It means that we have a function here. And then inside of the parentheses, for example, let's say you want to define a string. So I put string inside a double quotation, a single quotation, sorry, and say hello. If I print this right now, it will print out hello for me very quickly. So this time, this is the first time that we are running our cell in the Colab. It takes a couple of seconds, but the next time it will be much more faster. You can see that hello is now printed out for us. Now we use the print. This is the most basic function that you can use in Python in order to print whatever you want from your code. So now we print out the hello using the print function. The next important thing is variables. To use a variable, so let's first put a text here, say variables. And if I select another code, you can see that this is our title right now as a text. I have another cell right now. I created another cell. Now I want to start creating my first variable. So first of all, what is variable? Variable used for storing data temporarily in the computer memory. And it could be integer or float number. For example, let's say height is equal to 180. So height equal to 180. So if I run this, right now you can see the green check mark here. This green check mark, it means that everything is right and everything is correct. There is no error in your code. If I use my print function that we learned before to see what is the height variable value, and if I run this again, you can see that it will print out 180. It means that the value of this variable height that we defined before is 180. So we print it out. The variable could be a string as well. So we can have a string value for our variable. So let's create another cell and define a variable as a string. So let's say name. Our variable is name. Name is equal to, if you remember, for defining a string, we need to have a quotation. Then inside of the quotation, we put our name, John. And remember, for defining a string, you can use single or double quotation as well. So if I can do it like this as well. But I usually use the single quotation. Sometimes you can use the double quotation as well, and it doesn't. There's no difference. So for example, we can do it like this, or you can use the single quotation. So both of the double or single quotations are correct. Then this will be our variable with a string, so we can easily print this out as well. What is the value of our variable name? So it will print out John for us. This time wasn't a number, it was a string. Or it could be a Boolean value. What's Boolean is, Boolean means true or false. So by simply setting true or false to a variable, we can make it a Boolean variable. So if I want to create a Boolean variable, so for example, let's say is it correct? So this is our variable name, and I put, for example, true. So as soon as it changed the color to blue, it means that it has been written correctly. So now, is it correct is true. If I run this, this is our Boolean variable. Is it correct is a Boolean variable because I put a value true or false to it. Or you can use false, for example. And there's more important thing that I want to mention here. Python is case sensitive. And if I change, for example, this false to this, you can see that it will give me error because it doesn't understand this as true or false as I mentioned. We need to have uppercase in the beginning or for false like this, and then say false. And as soon as it changed color, it means that now it's correct. So this is our Boolean variable. Okay, to change our variable, to change our defined variable and do some methods in them, we need to call the methods. So first of all, let me put a text here and let's say methods. And if I create another cell, now I want to start implementing one method, for example, for a variable that I defined. Let's create another variable, a new variable with together. I want this variable to be named city name. And I put this in a quotation, single quotation, and I put New York City, for example, okay? So I created a variable named city name. If I run this now I have my city name variable. Now let's say I want to change this New York City to all uppercase. Okay, I want to do that, and I need to use a method. To use the method, I first write down the variable name. Then in order to call a method, I need to put dot and then using the calling the method that I want. The good thing about the collab is it will automatically show us the different methods that we can use. These are all the methods that you can use when you define a variable. For example, as I mentioned, I wanted to make all the letters to the change all the letters to uppercase. So I use the upper methods. I click on this. I don't need to do anything else. I just put the empty parentheses in front of it. And if I run this right now, you can see that it automatically prints out New York City with all uppercase, right? Or we can use other methods. For example, let's try another one. I have already defined the city name, my variable. So let's say I want to use this time another method. Let's, for example, use the find method. So let's find, and then inside of the parentheses, you need to mention the exact letter that you want to find. For example, let's say I want to find where is the position of W. So if I put W in the single quotation and I run this, you can see that it will give me number 2. What does it mean? It means that the position of the W in the New York City is number 2. And why is that? Because the Python starts counting from 0, not 1. This is very, very important note that you need to consider always. So what does it mean? It means that, okay, let me clarify this for you. So we start from, Python start from 0, then 1, then 2. So you can see that W, the position of the W is actually number 2. That's why it will give us 2. We can go further. For example, this space is 3, then Y is 4, then O is 5, then R is 6, and K is 7. If I change this to, for example, K, it should give us 7, right? So if I run this right now, you can see that it will give us 7. Let's try another method too. I want to close this part by trying another interesting method. So let's say city name again and dots. Then it will open up the list of the methods that we can use. And this method that I want to use right now is the replace method. So just look for the replace and click on it. Now we have the replace method. And inside of the parentheses, this time, the first element that you need to define is the things that you want to change, and then with comma, you separate it with the one that you want to be replaced with. So let's say in the New York City, I want to change city to C. So I put city inside of the quotation. And then with comma, I separate it, and then another quotation, I put C. So C will be replaced, actually city will be replaced by C. The first one is the one that to be replaced, and the next one is the one that you want city to be replaced with. If I run it right now, you can see that now New York City is New York C as we wanted. All right, math operators. So math operators, let's create another cell and let's, for example, say 7 plus 5. So 7 plus 5, run it, 12. If I want to do a minus, 7 minus 5, it's 2. Or if I want to multiply these two together, I use the asterisk sign. So if I run this, you can see that it's 35. Or I can just divide these two together, 7 divided by 5. That's 1.4, and we can also use double slash in order to just remove the decimal numbers. So if you want to have the decimal numbers when you are dividing two numbers together, just use one of these slashes. And if I run this, you can see that it's 1.4 as a float number. If you want to remove the decimal number and just round it down, you can just say 2 slashes. Now it divides 7 to 5, but it just rounded down. And it will show you the integer number. So if I run it again, you can see that it will give me 1. There are other math operators like double asterisk. It will, what double asterisk means in the power. So this means that 7 in the power of the 5. So if I run this right now, this will be the number 7 in the power of 5. And there is also another math operator that I want to show you how it works, and is the remainder of the division. So this means that it actually divides 7 by 5, but it shows you the remainder of this division. So if I run this right now, the remainder of the 7 divided by 5 is 2, and it's clear. So these are all the different math operators. So I would just put it as comments, all of them here. So to put a comment in the Python code, we use the pound sign, this one, and then it will consider it as comment. So let's say in this comment I want to show you all the operators: plus, minus, multiplication, then division, then double slash when you want to remove the decimal, and then we have double asterisk for the power purposes. Then we have this sign for remainder of division. All right. So these are all the math operators. Assignment operator. What is assignment operator? When we want to assign a value to a variable, we use assignment operator, just like what we did before. For example, let's say we have variable a, and we want to assign a value 25 to it. So we use assignment operator in order to do that. Or let's say, for example, variable b is equal to, I don't know, 3. So this value 3 is actually assigned to variable b. Or it could be even a string. For example, let's say variable d is equal to single quotation x. So we are assigning this value, that is a string, to variable d. So this is called assignment operator. Now let's add something else to it. For example, let's say we have a variable a right now here. Okay, so let's say a is equal to a plus 10. Okay, so if I print a right now, as you can imagine, what will be the result? The result will be a plus a that is 25 plus 10. So it is again assigned to variable a. So this is a double assignment actually. So you first assigned 25 to it, then you add 10 to it, and then again assign it to a variable a. So if I print a right now, it should give me 35. So if I run this, it gives me 35. But there is also an easier way to do this, and that's using this method. So let's say a plus equal 10. Okay, so a is already 25. 25 as a value assigned to a. But this time we want to add 10 to it. So we use this instead of this long method. We just say a plus equal to 10. So if I for example, let's say comments this, and then print a again, it should give me the same thing. It should give me 35. You can see the result is 35, same thing. So this operator that we used here, we actually used the assignment operator. We augmented it with one of the math operators here, for example. So you can use the other math operators as well here. For example, let's say I want to multiply it. Okay, so it actually multiplied 10 by 25. So if I run this now, it will give me 250. Or I want to, for example, divide it. So if I run this, you can see that it divides 25 by 10. It will give us 2.5. Or even you can use, for example, the remainder operator. And if I run this, you can see that the remainder will be 5. So this method, or let's say this operator that we use is augmented operator, that we use the assignment operator with other math operators in order to do some operations on the variable that we have already defined. We can simply use this in our code. Okay, for comparison operators, so we use comparison operator as it comes from its name in order to compare values with together. So let's see how it works. So let's define a variable a, and this variable a is equal to 10 more than 4. So since 10 is more than 4, as we all know, the result should be Boolean result, which is true. So if I print a right now, and run this cell, you can see that it gives me true. I can use odd, so this is comparison operator, and then I can use other comparison operators as well. So for example, I can say 10 is less than 4, so for sure it will give us false. And I can use more than equal. I can use a less than equal. I can use equality sign. So this equality sign, do not confuse this with the assignment operator. So this was assignment operator, if you remember, but this is equality sign. So the equality signs is different from assignment operator that we check, it actually checks if two terms are equal with each other or not. If yes, it returns true, and if not, it returns false. For example, if I check this right now, because 10 is not equal to 4, so it gives me false. And there is another term in order to check non-equality, not equality form, and that's using the exclamation mark with the assignment operator. So if I run this right now, it will give me true because 10 is not equal to 4. So this operator is actually not equal. So if I run this, you can see it will give me true. So these are all the comparison operator. There are simple operators we use in order to compare two values with together. But remember, again, this equality sign is not similar to the assignment sign. Do not confuse this with together. And that's it. Okay, logical operators. So we have three main logical operators. I will put it as comments. So these logical operators are and, or, not. So these are the three logical operators. Let me put them in quotation so you do not confuse them. And so we go through an example in order to find out what are these operators and how they works. Let's imagine we have variable a again, and this time the variable a is equal to 20, right? So if I say print a more than, let's say more than 30 and a less than 40. First of all, you can see that the operator automatically changed the color when I write and. So this means that this is considered or as the operator in Python. And I'm using the first logical operators that I mentioned, and. So what is the result of this print? So if I run this right now, it should give me false. And why is that? Because when we are using the AND operator, it means that both of these expressions, a more than 30 and a less than 40, should be, or let's say must be, true. Otherwise, it will give us false. So for example here, a is 20, it's less than 40. So this one is satisfied, this expression, but a is more than 30 is not satisfied. So not both of them, just one of them is satisfied. So it will give, the result will be false. So when we are using the AND operator, AND logical operator, remember both of the expressions, or let's say all of the expressions that you're using AND with them, should be or must be true. Otherwise, it will give you the false results. Now, let's say, for example, let me create another cell. And let's say this time I want to use OR operator. So this time I'm saying, again, let's say A is 20. Now I want to use, I'm copying this line here. Instead of AND, I'm using OR. If I run this now, you can see this time it will give me true. Why is that? Because when we are using OR logical operator, we need at least one of them to be true, not both of them, one of them. Because one of them is true, actually, a that is 20 is less than 40. It's true, but it's not more than 30. So at least one of them is true, it will give us back true results. So now you can understand what is the difference between AND and OR logical operators. There is another operator that you need to know about it, and that's not logical operator. When we are using, this not operator is used when we want the opposite results. It reverses the results for us. It returns false if the result is true. Very simple. So let's say a is equal to 20, as we discussed. Now let's say print a more than 30. So we know the results of this line. So print a more than 30. Is it more than 30? It's not more than 30, so it should give us false. So if I run this, it will give me false. But if I use the not operator in the beginning, I say not, and then a more than 30, and if I run this, it should give us the opposite result. It should reverse the result and give it to us. So it should be true. If I run this, it will give me true. You see that not operator is actually reverse the result and return false. If it's true, return true. If it's false. So that was it about the logical operators. All right, conditional statements. We use conditional statements when we want our code to make a decision for us. So it's actually a decision-making operation. So let's start with creating a new variable. Let's call this variable age, and it's 20. Okay. So I want to use a conditional statement. A basic conditional statement that we want to learn right now is if statement. So I'm saying if, you can see that the color changed automatically as soon as I write if, and then space. And now it's time to put my condition in front of if. So I'm saying if the variable that I define, age, is more than 18, okay? So this is our conditional statement. Then we use the condition actually in front of the if, and then to close, after writing down the condition, when you finish the condition, just put colon. Do not forget the colon, and then press enter. When you press enter, you can see that when it goes to the next line, actually, there will be an indentation which shows we created a block of code, right? So if I write down in my block of code, if I write down print, use a print function and say inside of the quotation, type for me, you are in the defined age limits. Okay, so if I do this, and so actually, first of all, this line will be executed if it satisfies the condition in front of the if statement. So we have a condition in front of this if statement. Then we go to the next line after the colon. Let's review it together. We go to the next line. It creates an indentation for us. It creates a block of code for us. And this block of code, it could be any number of lines. So right now we have only one line here in our block of code. And this line will be executed only and only if the condition is satisfied, the condition that we mentioned in front of if a statement, all right? So if I run this right now, because our age is 20 and it's more than 80, so it satisfied the condition, it should actually print you are in the defined age limit. So if I run this right now, you can see that it will print out you are in the age limit. But what if I change this to, for example, 16? If I change this to 16, right now, if I run this, it is not satisfying the condition because age is not more than 18. So if I run this, you can see that it will print nothing. And the reason that it will print nothing is, again, because it is not satisfying the condition in front of the if. So what should we do? We should add actually another line, another condition, let's say. Let's go to the next one. Again, start from the beginning because we want to put another condition. I can use again if, or I can use, for example, elif. Okay, same thing. So elif, this time let's put another conditions. For example, let's say if age is less than 18 and, you remember the and operator is a logical operator, and age more than equal to 16, all right? So we use another conditional statement, elif or if, and we added another condition that is that covers actually the range of the age less than 18 and age more than equal to 16. So this and, it means that both of the expressions needs to be true. Okay, you remember what was and logical operator. So if I put the colon right now and go to the next line, you can see that another block of code for us is created, and now you can write what we want to be printed. For example, let's say this time I want to print you are near to age limit, for example. You are near to age limits. So right now, if I run this with 16, it actually comes to this range. It is less than 18 and it is equal to 16, more than equal to 16. So it is actually satisfying both of these conditions. So it will print for me you are near to age limit because I'm 16. So if I run this right now, you can see that it will give me you are near to age limit. But if I change this, for example, this time to 14, again, it will give me nothing if I run this. You can see nothing as the result because none of these conditional statements are true. It's not more than 18, it's not less than 18 and more than 16. So in order to close our statements, we can use else. So for example, I can use another, I can add another conditional statement using if or elif again, but this time I want to close I want to close my conditional statement. To close my conditional statements, I'm using else conditional statement. So I'm saying else. It means that all other values for the age should be in this condition. So when I'm saying else, I don't have to write down anything in front of it because it means that all other values for the variable. So I'm saying else, colon, go to the next line. Again, it will create a block of code for you. So you can write down anything that you want. You can say print. This time I want to write you are not in the age limit. You are not in the age limit. So if I run this right now with age 14, it will bring, write down for us, it will print for us, you are not in the age limit because 14 is not satisfying this condition, is not satisfying this condition, and it goes automatically to the else condition. All other values that are not in this condition and in this condition will drop to the else condition. So this was the conditional statement. I strongly suggest you try other ages. For example, try 15 and 50 right now as exercise for yourself, or even you can forget about this and you can do as exercise to create your first conditional statement using if, elif, and else, and use different ages like 15, 50, I don't know, 80, all other numbers. You can try them. Okay, looping or loop. If you want to repeat something over and over to satisfy a condition, we actually create a loop. We can use while statements in order to create our loop. How to do that? Let's do it with an example. Let's say I want to create a variable named I, for example, and I want to put a value 2 to it. Okay. Then I say while, okay, you can see that the color automatically changed. I mean, it's correct. So while I less than equal to or less than 10, then again we put colon, just like what we did for the if statement, if you remember. Then if we go to the next line, it will create our block of code, and then we print, let's say I. So if I run this, what will happen is it prints I is equal to 2, and it's not changing. And every time it puts I here, that is 2, and it's equal to, and is less than 10, and it printed for us 2, 2, 2, 2. So it's doing it for infinite time, because every time it's checked the condition 2 is less than 10, so it prints it. So it prints 2 for infinite time. So it's going on and on, this process. So if I run this, you can see that you will get lots of 2's here. You see, it will not stop writing 2. So in order to limit this, so first of all, let me stop this. Okay, so we have lots of 2's here. So in order to limit this and stop this, we can simply add one line to this in the block of code, in our block of code after defining the condition. I'm saying I'm writing then another line, and I'm saying I is equal to I plus 1. What does it mean? This means that in every iteration that you want to print, let's add one number, one value to I, and then check the condition again. So for example, the first one is 2, it will print 2 for us. The second one is not 2 again, it's 3. So because we add 1 to it. So it will print 3 for us. The third one is adding 1, 4, still less than 10. It prints 4 for us until we reach to 10, that is not less than 10. So it will stop there. So this time we don't have infinite number as the output. This time we have a list of numbers. So if I run this right now, you can see that it will start from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Until 9, everything is fine. But when it reaches to 10, it terminates because it's not less than 10 anymore. So it will stop there. So this is how we can do that and create our loop. Or just for your information, we had learned something else here in order to change this line. You remember, we can add, instead of this line, we can add a more simple line. Let's say I plus equal to 1. Okay, so this means that every time just add one number to the I and then do the looping again. So we learned this in our in the part of the operator parts in the, I think it was in the, yeah, in the assignments operator, this part, if you remember. So this was actually the augmented assignment operator, and we use this simply. If I run this right now, you can see that it will give me the exact same result. It starts from 2 and it ends at 9. So this was looping. I hope you understood it. So you can use other examples for yourself to see, for example, for different numbers, different values, at different conditions in front of the while to see how it works. Now I want to learn a very important concept in Python that is called list. Until now, we learned about basic types of variables in Python, such as single numbers or string. For example, here we defined I is equal to 2. This is a single number. Age is equal to 14, single number value for our variable. And even using a string, for example, A is equal to, I don't know, John. And these are all single elements variables. Now, what if we have multiple items in our variable? For example, instead of saying A equal to 1, what if we want 1, 2, 3, 4 in our variable? So to do that, we need to create a list of values. So to create a list of values, the first thing that you need to do, let's call it, for example, A again, we need to create a set of brackets. And inside of the brackets, you need to put your items, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, and separate them using comma. 1, comma, 2, comma, 3, comma, and 4, comma. Now we created a list. So this time, A is a list that we created. Let's create other lists, this time using a string, for example. Let me create another cell and write down, for example, city underscore name. So city name is equal to, again, brackets to create, set of brackets to create our list, and put the elements. For example, the first one is New York, then comma, another element, for example, let's say Montreal, comma, set of quotation, London, comma, and Paris. Okay, I just put 4 different cities, 4 different string values in my list. So I created a list named city name, and this city name list includes 4 elements, 4 items that I separated them with comma. First, we can call this, for example, let's call this, let's say print city name and run this, you can see that it will print us all the elements that are defined in our list. Now, what if I want to call just one of these elements? So to do that, to call just one of the elements, I can write it inside of the quotation again, and I can put the exact position of that element. For example, 0. What does it mean? It means that if you remember, Python start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 0 means the first element, first item in our list. That is New York, right? So if I run this right now, it will print out just New York for me. So we actually called the first element, that the position is 0 in our list, and we actually filtered out that element and write it out here, New York. If I want, for example, Paris, it's 0, 1, 2, 3. I can put 3 here, and I'll run this. You can see that it will print out Paris for me. But there is another way to do that. If we discussed that before, that in the list we start from 0. Python start from 0. But if we want to go backwards, it starts from -1. So this is -1, this is -2, -3, -4. So if I put -1 here instead of 3, it should give me the same result, Paris, right? This. So now let's replace, for example, one of these elements. Now, for example, let's replace Montreal with Milan, for example. To do that, let me create another cell, and let's add a comment here. If you remember, commenting was using with pound sign. So I'm using pound for comment. Let's replace Montreal with Milan. Okay. So to do that, I'm saying, first of all, I should call the Montreal. How can I call the Montreal? If you remember, city name inside of the bracket in front of it. So I'm saying, again, city name, brackets. What is the position of the Montreal? It's 0, 1. So I should just put 1 here. So this city name, the name of the list, in front of the inside the brackets, if I put the position of the each of these elements, it will bring it for me here, and I will put equal sign, then Milan inside of the quotation. So this means that replace this string value that I mentioned here with the position 1 in my list. Position 1 is actually Montreal, 0, 1. So if I run this right now, and if I check my city name again, print city name, and I run this again, you can see that this time in my city name list, we replaced Montreal with Milan very easily. Now let's say we want to filter out a couple of cities. Let's say, let me create another cell again. Let's say we want to create a new list, for example. And in this new list, I want to filter out some of these elements from the list that we already defined, city name. So to do that, I'm mentioning city name. And how can I filter? So if you remember, if I wanted to filter just one of these elements, I just put the position of that element, -1, 0, anything, okay? This time, inside of the bracket, because I want a range of elements, not just one, I want, for example, from this to this, from New York to London. I want to filter out them and copy them in my new list that is named new list, actually. So to do that, because I want to start with 0 and end in 2, I just mention it here. So I start with 0 and I continue until 2. So I use colon in order to define my range. So start from 0 and end at 2. So it actually, if I mention 2 here, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, but it doesn't consider 2. If I run this right now, it doesn't consider London for me. Let's check that out. If I print new list and run this, you can see that it only it only creates a list for me, including New York and Milan, the first two. Right now, it's not Montreal. We replaced it with Milan. And it is not the London is not included in our new list. However, we define the range from 0 to 2. The reason is Python is not actually considering the last value in your range. So if you want London, you need to add one number to this. You can say 3. So it starts with 0, 1, 2, and it ends with 3, but it does not consider the last value in your range. It does not consider 3. So if I want London, I need 0 to 3. So if I run this again, you can see that I have London 2 right now. So this was how we can actually filter out filter out the different elements from our list. Now I want to show you another cool thing about the list that will help us very much in coding. Let me create another cell and let me define a list of numbers this time. For example, let's define a list named age. And inside of the brackets, I have 16, 20, 34, a couple of random numbers, 45 and 50, for example. So these are the different, this is our list named age, and it includes 5 different values, numbers, okay? So the first method that I want to show you is the insert method. So now you know what is methods. We discussed that before, but this time we want to use it for the list. So to do that, I'm actually using the list name, that is age. Again, just like before, we use dots, and then it will automatically show us the list of the methods that we can use for our list. For example, now let's start with this one, inserts. Okay, so age.inserts, when we want to actually put a number inside of our list, we can use the inserts method. The things that you need to define for the insert method inside of the parentheses is first the position that you want to add your new number, for example, in this list, where exactly you want to add it. For example, let's say 0, 1, 2. I want to add it here, so I'm saying 267. So if I run this right now, what actually happened is Python goes through your list and it counts from 0. This is 0, this is 1, and here is 2. So it adds 67 between 20 and 34, exactly at number 2, because you want 67 to be positioned in 2. So if I run this right now, and let's put print as well to see what will happen. If I run this right now, you can see that the list changed to this. First of all, we added 67. Now instead of 5 elements, we have 6 elements. And 67 is actually positioned in number 2 because this is 1, this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2, exactly as we wanted. So the first element in the insert method is the exact location that you want to put your number, your inserted number. And the second element is the value of that number, or it could be even a string, not just number. So this is the insert method. Let's just try another method. Let's try, for example, remove method. I will create another cell here. So to use the remove method, for example, let's say I want to remove number 20. Okay, so we can easily say age, the name of the list, dot remove, and inside of the parentheses you can easily mention the number that you want to remove. For example, I want to remove 20. Okay, the value that you want to remove. And if I check the age again after I do this, you can see that this time again we have 5 values instead of 6, and we remove 20. We don't have 20 anymore in our list. Or let's say I want to remove 67 that I added before. Okay, if I run this, you can see that 67 is not in our list anymore. So this is how we can use different methods in our list. You can use other methods as exercise yourself. There are a couple of methods for playing around with your list. There's another thing that I want to mention before we close the list part, and it is very important when we want to use this list thing in our code, and that's the length of the list. For example, you want to know what is the length of this list, how many elements you have in this list. So you can simply use the length function. So I say len, this is our length function, and I will put the name of the list. I define age here. So if I run this right now, you can see it's 4. Why it's 4? Because we actually removed 20 and 67 here. And at the end, the last cell actually prints out age with 4 values for us. So it's actually correct. The length of the age is 4. We can use this length function very much in future. We will know how. And yeah, that was it. So let's go to the next part. All right, dictionary. So a dictionary is another data type, just like list that we discussed, that contains sets of keys and values. So let me explain this with an example. So let's create a dictionary name city _ temperature that contains the average temperature of different cities. So first of all, to create a dictionary, instead of bracket that we used for creating a list, we use set of curly brackets. So we have a set of curly brackets, and inside of that curly bracket, again, each element should be separated with comma, but the first element, as I mentioned, each element consists the keys and values. So the first thing that you need to define is the key. For example, let's say the name of the city, New York. And the second thing that should be separated with colon is the value. So the value of it is 25. Okay, so the first is the key, and the second that is separated with colon is the value that is assigned to this key. So we want to define another element. Let's separate it with comma, and then again inside of the quotation define a name of the name of the city that you want. For example, Montreal, and again colon. This time 15, comma. Let's create another one. London, colon 20. All right. So I created a dictionary that contains different elements, and each element consists of keys, that is the first one, and the value that is assigned to that key that is separated with colon. That's it. And we put all of this instead of curly brackets. That creates our dictionary. This is our first dictionary. Congratulations, we made it. So now, just like a list, we can call any parts of any elements of this dictionary. Let's say, for example, I want to call the, first of all, let's define this. Let's run this cell. And then I want to know the temperature of the Montreal. So I want to call that. So I'm saying city _ temperature. And then just like list, I use the set of brackets, and inside of that, I only need to mention the key that I defined. The key is Montreal, okay? So I just copy this and put it here. And if I run this right now, it should give me the value 15 that is assigned to Montreal. So if I run this, you can see that it is giving me number 15. You can use this for London, New York, or any other elements that you defined in your dictionary. So you can simply call the elements of the dictionary by using the key that you define, and it will give you the value that you assigned to that key. To replace one of the values of the keys, we can simply say, let me create another cell. So we can say city underscore temp, and inside of the set of bracket, for example, let's say I want to change this London value. So inside of the bracket, I again mention the key London. And I can change this with any number that I want. For example, I want to say, for example, 10 instead of 20. But there is one important note that you should consider. Both of these keys and values could be string as well. So it's not mandatory to just have numbers as values. It could be a string as well. So for example, let's say I want to, instead of 20, I want to put string cool, okay? So 20 is a cool temperature, so I put cool here. So instead of number, this time I will have cool. So if I run this right now, and if I check if I print the city temp again and run this, you can see that instead of 20, this time I have cool. So I replaced it with cool. We can check all the values in the dictionary as a list using the value method. So it's another method that could be useful in dictionary. For example, you want to have all these values as a list. So you can simply say city underscore temp and use the value method. For using the method, if you remember, put a dot, and then you have a couple of methods here. So I want to use the value methods, and you don't need to put anything inside the parentheses. Just run this and it will give you the dictionary values as a list here. 25, 15, and cool that we replaced it recently. So we can also delete one of the items inside of our dictionary using del keyword. So let me create another cell. I'm using a keyword del. This is for deleting any item that you want inside your dictionary. And I'm mentioning the city underscore name, the city temp, sorry, city temperature. And inside of the brackets, I'm using the keyword that I want, the key that I want to be deleted. For example, let's say I want to delete London, okay? So I just put London here. And if I run this now, and if I check the final created city temperature again, city temp, if I run this now, you can see that this time we don't have London inside of our dictionary. So that was all about the dictionary. You can go through other methods. As I said, just create your dictionary, any dictionary that you want. Consists of keys and values, and then put dots in front of it. It will show you the list of the methods that you can use, and just play around with it to understand it better. All right, until now we learned about two important data types, list and dictionary. Now it's time to understand what is tuple as another important data type. So tuples are variables with ability of sorting several items, just like list, right? This is the exact definition of the list as well, the variable with ability of sorting several items. But what is the difference between list and tuple? Let me explain this by an example. So you remember the list that we created with together for the city names, if you remember this. So let's go back, let's copy this city name and paste it here in this cell. So this is what we created as a list. So let's do that again, for example, by I want to change the Montreal to Milan. If you remember, what we have done was city underscore names, and inside of the brackets I used the position, the location of the Montreal, that was 1, and I put Milan here. If you remember, we have done this with together and it was successful. So if I print again city name and run this, you can see that we simply change Montreal in our list to Milan. So why I did this again? Because this time I want to create another cell, copy and paste all of this here, and create a tuple instead of the list. To create a tuple, the only thing that is different between the list and tuple is how we create them. So we remove these sets of brackets, and instead of that, I put all of these elements inside of a set of parentheses, right? So I remove the brackets, I put parentheses. Now city name is not a list anymore, it is actually a tuple. Let's execute the same procedure for replacing city Montreal with Milan, this time for our tuple. If I run this right now, let's see what will happen. So it will give me error exactly at the second line. You can see that the first line is executed with no error because we created our tuple. But in the next line, when we want to change the Montreal with Milan, it will give us the error. And what is the error? Let's read it with together. Tuple object does not support item assignments. What does it mean? So this means tuple, unlike lists, are immutable. It means that we cannot change them anymore as soon as we create them. However, except muting them, they just behave like list, and we can use the other methods like accessing the elements just like what we did for the list. So list and tuple are similar to each other, but the only difference is the tuples are immutable while the lists are mutable, and you can change them. In simple words, tuples could not be changed when you create them, just like this. We cannot change Montreal to Milan anymore, but we have easily changed the Montreal to Milan when we had lists. But again, you can use other methods like accessing to the elements of the tuple, just like what we did for the list. Do this exercise. Right, for loops. So we use for loops when we want to iterate over a sequence. So this sequence could be a list, could be a dictionary, could be a tuple, all the data types that we discussed with together before. So let's create a for loop, very simple for loop with together. So I want to use a list that we created before to not waste time. So for example, this list, and copy it here in this cell. And this is our list, and we want to create a for loop for this. So go to the next line, and I'm saying for, you see the color will change automatically, space. Then I put X here in cities, in city name, the name of the list that you have. You can just copy and paste it here, and then put colon, just like what we did for the conditional statement, if you remember, to create a block of code again. Put enter, you can see the indentation. Now you will write, for example, print X, very simple, right? So if I run this right now, let's see what will happen. It will actually print out each of the elements in each iteration, all right? In each iteration, actually, it prints out one of the elements of the list for us until it reaches to the end. In iteration 1, it prints out New York. In iteration 2, it prints out Montreal. In the iteration 3, it prints out London. And in the last iteration, it prints out Paris. And that's the end of the list. This is exactly what we asked from the for loop. So we asked in the city name, in the data type, as a list that we defined as city name, go to the city name, just print all the elements inside of it one by one in each iteration for me. Now let's add a conditional if statement to it. What if I say this time for x in city names, print x, and I put inside of the block of code that I created, I put a if condition. So let's say if x equality sign to London, again we need the colon, another indentation, another block of code, we can say brick, all right? So it means that this time we don't want to go to until the end of the list. We want to close it somewhere. We want to break it somewhere, and we put a condition that, okay, if you reach London, you can now break it. So we add a break. We add a if conditional statement inside of the block of code that we had for the for loop, in order to break it, in order to stop the for loop in the place that we want. So if I run this right now, it actually should just print New York, Montreal, London, and it should stop it. So it shouldn't print out the Paris for me. So if I run this, you can see that I only have New York, Montreal, and London. That's it for the for loop. Let's go to the next part. Okay, now it's time to learn a very practical function named range function that we use it so much in our coding exercises. So let's learn it. Range is a function which creates a sequence of numbers for us, which starts from 0 and increments by 1 in each step. For example, very simply, let's say a is equal range of 10. Okay, if I print a, you can see that it will give me a range between 0 and 10. But if you want to see all these steps, we can use the for loop that we discussed before. Let me create another cell. So let's say for I in, this time, range of 10. This is the exact range function that we used here. For I in range of 10, print I. That's it. So if I run this right now, you can see that it will give me the numbers. It will print out 10 numbers for me. Starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, and it ends at 9. All right. So now we use the for loop in order to see this range that is created. Now, if you don't want the numbers to start from 0, we simply can give two values in the inside of the parentheses. For example, instead of just saying 10, that automatically by default to start from 0, this time I want to start from 10 and ends at 20. So let's say the first number is 10 and I separate it with comma and I put 20. So again, the first number is showing the starting point. The first value is the starting point, and the next value, that is 20, is the ending point of the range. So if I run this again, you can see that this time the printout numbers are starting from 10 and ending in 19. So it will print out again 10 numbers for me, but this time starting from 10 and end in 19 before 20. So let's say also want to change the step. I don't want to the incremental steps will is 1. I just want to change the step to 2. So to add this step, you can easily add another comma and put the step that you like. For example, this time instead of 1, I want 2. So if I run this right now, you can see that now the steps are 2, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. Very simple, right? So this was the range function that you can use it very much when you are do the coding exercises.